in a vital urban neighborhood. And lastly, a lot of folks will tell you we can't do this. We've not had successes on other things, but we built Fort Washington Way. That's a $300 million project. We did a great job with Convention Center, another great project. Those are things we can do. The other reason we need to do this now, we're seeing a downtown renaissance. We're seeing things happen in neighborhoods, in the downtown neighborhoods, and over the Rhine and uptown that we've not seen in a long time. We've got $7 billion of investment along this potential route, and we need to reinforce and reiterate what the important investments those are. Those are things like Finley Market and Fountain Square. You just saw the article in the paper today about how hot Fountain Square is, how people are coming back downtown just for that. We've got a downtown housing base that we expect to double in the next decade. And we've got robust business centers, as I mentioned before. The two biggest employment centers that we have in the city are the uptown neighborhoods of Clifton and Cuff and downtown. So it's important that we connect those. We're going to benefit by creating these things and bringing them back to the city to create a new competitive city. One of the things we hear when we try to bring in new businesses, particularly businesses because we're competing globally now. When we bring in European companies, they say, you have a beautiful city, you've got intelligent people, hard workers with a great work ethic. Tell us about some of the other things. So we show them neighborhoods, and they ask about transportation. They say, what are your transit options? And we say, we have a great bus system. These are folks who come from Europe who are looking at very robust systems of rail transit where folks live without cars, places where there are more bikes than cars. And those are the folks that we're competing with when we're out in the marketplace. We're not alone in looking at streetcars as a way to revitalize our cities. There are 46 other places in the United States, even a place near to my old hometown of Winston-Salem. People who either have built systems or are considering building systems are in some various stage of study. So it's not just us that have this idea. They do that because they have realized this kind of reinvestment in their neighborhoods. This is Portland. They've had 7,000 new residential units since they opened their streetcar in 2001. Tampa, 700 new residential units since 2003. Little Rock, Arkansas, who would think the streetcar system would bring new development? 650 since 2004. And Kenosha, Wisconsin. This is a great slide because this was part of a unified plan where streetcars and transit were part of a plan that they had from 1925 for a City Beautiful development that had become an industrial park. It had become a brownfield. They reclaimed that and started to recreate the plan they had in 1925, and they made streetcars the centerpiece of that plan. And they realized almost 500 new residential units in that. So let's back up just a second and for clarity talk about what we mean when we say a streetcar. We're not talking about trolleys. We're talking about a one-car train, something that runs on fixed rail. And the fixed rail is very important because that is the piece that leads investors to want to invest along the line. The permanence of the rail makes folks understand that it's not going to change and go away like a bus route might. The streetcar runs with traffic. It runs an average speed of 13 miles an hour. That's because it stops at lights, it unloads people. It's a vehicle that's scaled to the size of the city. So it's not a big train. It's not something that's going to rumble through at 35 miles an hour, but it'll run with traffic. We projected it's going to run 18 hours a day, 365 days a year. And at peak times, the times you want it most, we're talking about a 10-minute wait time, max. A lot of folks will remember the old streetcars and all of the overhead clutter that we have with that. If you'll look at this line, we're talking about a train that uses one overhead catenary. So it's a very, very simple system. And as we go through, I'll point out a couple of places where you can maybe see the minimal type of catenary line that we're talking about. You'll hear folks say, why can't we do this with buses? Buses do not induce the kind of investment along the route that we're talking about. Streetcars are quieter, they accommodate more people. They're a lot easier for folks who have some mobility impairments getting on and off. Streetcars set low to the ground. One of the reasons that you see us projecting using a modern car is because the doors are big. It's very easy for people with strollers or in wheelchairs or want to get a bike on or off. Makes it very easy for them to get on and off. There are no platforms. It's a slightly higher curve that people get up, and it's a very easy transition on. That's very important. Streetcars are also very easy to understand. If you see the track, you know where the streetcar runs. You might see a sign that says bus stop, but you don't know where the bus runs. So it's a very legible and easily understood system. And for some reason, streetcars generate more riders. We heard a little story when we did our streetcar forum about an alignment, a bus route that they had in Tacoma, Washington. They replaced that with a streetcar, and they saw the ridership go on that tenfold. That's tenfold. It went from 80 to 800. So streetcars are also not light rail. Light rail is a regional system. And it's good we're starting with streetcars because someday we're going to come back to this conversation about a regional system, a regional rail system. And that's going to be a very important thing for us to remain competitive in this world economy that we're in. Light rail is a much bigger car, it's much heavier, and it's meant to travel longer distances. Streetcars are meant to be the sort of moving sidewalk of downtown. It's a way that we can expand the walkable area of downtown in a very simple and direct way. Streetcars are also great because they'll help us tie into some of the parking that we're building on the periphery of downtown, so folks can literally park once and go to Fountain Square and have a meal, and then go to the opera at a music hall, or maybe even beyond that up at CCM up at UC. So it will be a way that we can extend this, and we can really make this a park once and avoid the congestion a lot of other cities see. So you saw the examples of other cities and what they've managed to do with streetcars and how they've seen revitalization. So how do we know that's going to work for us? We didn't just take a flyer on this. When we hired a company to look at a feasibility study, they brought in an economic analysis team to look at this, and they brought in this team to modulate what we could expect to see as a benefit to the Cincinnati market. It's not just a black box interpolation from what Portland's seen or Little Rock's seen, but it's what we would expect to see. So they set a team of real estate experts in a room, and they went around and they said, are these assumptions correct? And they adjusted them up and down. And what they found was we could expect to see a 2.7 to 1 benefit to cost on this. And that's the midpoint of that. We could be lower, we could be higher, but that was the midpoint that they decided. We also looked and said, well, that's going to generate construction activity too. What would be the economic impact? The economic impact they came back with was 14 to 1. So let's see how those are made up. The 2.7 to 1 comes into a lot of things, some things called congestion management. That's fewer people in cars driving around downtown. There's some affordable mobility issues. That's people who may not have cars, the need to get to public services like the doctor or health clinic. That's what that takes in. Some cross-sector benefits that look at other social service organizations. But the real value that we see is over $300 million in property value premiums. The property values on the line has been shown time and time again will escalate in their value because you have that amenity near the line. And that's not just right on the line, but you also see that tier back. And I have a little map that I'll show you a bit later how that works. If I quit hitting that button. This is where we also see the 14 to 1. Downtown has got 92 acres of parking. Now, I heard folks talk about how hard it is to find parking downtown, but there's 92 acres of surface lots or parking garage footprints dedicated in downtown. If you go to cities that are real and vital, and I know you all have, most of you won't see but more than one surface parking lot downtown. You won't see this proliferation of lots, and that's because those properties are in things that people want to see, like homes, restaurants, offices, things that generate those kinds of tax benefits that we can share back through the rest of the city. We also hear, what are we going to know about, the area's already developed. Well, there's 500 vacant parcels in Over the Rhine. I think there's a lot of room for us to fill. The little black dots you see on this map on the far right is, those are all the surface parking lots we have. So you see a lot on the banks, and you see the streetcar ties into the banks, so we can take advantage of that parking. What does that mean? It's transit-oriented development. Now, most transit-oriented development, which you'll hear people talk about, is around a node. It's around a light rail station stop. This is different. It's different in that it's along a corridor.